Morning, mate.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
That's good. We're on air live. Hang on, I get my tongue around that. I noticed a few more subscribers come in yesterday or today or overnight.
Oh, cool.
And I did say last night that we're starting at 4:30, so I thought I'd better kick it off.
Oh, oh yeah, you did. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Just for those listening, we normally start at 4:35, just to give you a
Yeah.
chance to sit down. But oh well, that's all good, mate. That's all good.
What's going on, bud?
Well, I sat down today. I got into a short yesterday in the FTSE, which I moved my stop to break even because of just a bit of concern. You know, this sort of. I can show you what I've got actually, rather than just saying about it. We got quite a lot of information really to go on today as well. Even though tomorrow is the big one, I think that there's probably going to be some fluctuations
Okay.
in the market today, and I'll show you what we got. Now, one thing that you guys will start to notice, any new listeners out there, you'll start to notice that there is a bit of nuance in the way that Google Hangouts work. So when one of us talks, it seems to flip screens, which we can't do anything about, but we will get through
Nuance
as much
and
as we can.
nuisance.
And a nuisance, yeah, it's not the best system, but it gives us the ability to reach out to more people, so that's why we use it.
It's a pain in the bloody ass, as a matter of fact. Did you know
let's.
I'm now selling bamboo toilet paper, mate? Did you know that? Did I tell you that?
No, I did not know that. Very good. Very
Yeah.
good. Obviously, you're
It's
not producing that yourself.
no, not yet. No, not ever, because
Yeah.
this stuff's this stuff's pretty cool. If you
Yeah.
get a chance, Google it. Who gives a crap? As it's called.
I imagine it's a bit rough, but
No, no, no,
no, I'm
absolutely
only
not.
joking.
Quite the reverse. Quite the reverse.
Oh, very good, mate. Very good.
Just
Well,
thought you'd like to know that before we got into
what a
the
way to
nitty
start
gritty
your
of it.
day.
Yeah, there you go.
It kind of puts
That
me
might be
into
something
thinking.
for you, actually. You can do that from the UK. I'm starting. We'll talk about it later, eh?
Yeah, well, I'm still interested in this shop, but you talked me out of it.
Yeah, retail. Woof.
Yeah,
Tough,
yeah.
tough gig.
Don't get into it, huh?
No, online's fine, but retail, no.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, might have to avoid that one then. Um, anyway, let's talk about the FTSE just very quickly because we got into a short yesterday in this area here, and I was looking for it to come down and touch the low end of this falling wedge, which it didn't do. Just tidy up this line a little bit. It didn't do. It didn't come down as far as that. In actual fact, it came quite a bit short of where I would have predicted it would have come. But I did almost actually touch these lows here. Didn't quite, but almost touched these lows. And then it started to turn around. And I put my stops at break even. I put my stops at break even actually a lot earlier when this bar was going on. And the reason for that was that the downside looked like it was established enough to move stops to break even. That if it was going to come back and test this area, it'd probably go through it, and that's what happened. So, no harm, no foul, no loss, no gain. I mean, I could have taken profit, obviously, but I'm really after a lot more than a 25 pip move or 20 pip move or 20 to 25 pip move. I'm after much more than that before I start taking profit. So happy to come out up to a break-even trade. I'm looking again today, and this obviously is now at the top end of the wedge, but there's a few things keeping me away from this particular area here, and I'll show you what they are. The first thing is that we've got price action, which may well have a separate pattern within a pattern, if you like. So there's a little trend line here. We might call it a trade line. I'm not sure how we describe that one, mate. You might want to call that a trade line. I do see three
Mm,
touches, just here, and
I'm
sorry,
looking
here and
at it.
here. They're pretty
Quite
tight,
chunky,
but
actually.
yeah. So really, this does provide a potential for some upside. Now, even though we're at the top end of this falling wedge, the falling wedge does have bullish connotations. So I still think the overall picture in the market is to look for the short, but there may well be a run up back to the highs in between times. So I won't discard that, and I will potentially be looking for a long somewhere in this area to this area. I'd love it to take out this point here. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get another setup. Now let's just quickly talk about RSI, because what's the RSI doing here? The RSI has broken through and it's suggesting upside. So for that reason, I really have an upside setup, and I'm not adverse to it. You know, I'm not too concerned about trading this one long. And in the next 25 minutes, you may well find me in a long rather than a short. The issue on longer term time frames still exists. Let's look at the 4 hour. Now the 4 hour really has given us, we'll get rid of some of these lines now. The 4 hours given us a bit of a spinning top, which is kind of indecisive, but it's also a bit of a shooting star doji as well, which is also, it can have negative connotations. So I don't really want to go long at these lofty levels, but if it breaks the pattern, I may have no option but to go long. So I might well go in at this particular point and see what happens there. I'm just going to take some of these lines down because I find them a bit distracting when I talk. What else? So let's have a look at a different chart now. Look at the clean chart, just to see some of the longer term time frames. Still have got this this longer term pattern, which is why I wouldn't be aiming for too much upside, but I will be aiming for some upside if we break through. This would suggest that the highs would be potentially rejected, but I wouldn't necessarily just put in a target and take it off. If we're going to break long, I will leave it run. And it is a hedge. You know, I've got some shorts in the market, so it's going to be a hedge up there. And the hedge might have to stay in the market and possibly even drive us back to these highs. Because the question now we'll get to some of the reasons behind this in a few moments. So this is the weekly chart as well. Another indecisive bar here on the weekly chart, but it's obviously kind of rejected the highs here, but it is an indecisive bar. So we might see ourselves drive forward, certainly to the top end of the weekly bar and possibly beyond. So we're going to have to be aware of that. So I'd like to get into the hedge as early as possible, but just not quite yet. But it's getting fairly close to convincing me that I should take a long on here. What was the last thing I was going to mention? Yes, let's think about drivers. So this is what we got today. Now we still got quite a few issues going on, you know, in the world. We got Donald Trump sending some troops over to Iran, the Iranian seas, and we still have this this hangover or pre-hangover. I don't know what would you call a pre-hangover before you get drunk.
Good time.
A good time, yeah. So we've got this good time before the Fed come out and say what they need to say. And the question always is going to be, are people going to buy into it or are they going to sell into it? And so far, you have to say the market's been pretty resilient. And I'll talk about that in one more moment. But ECB press conference at 9. So that's going to be quite an interesting factor. And again, you know, we got the first hour. People may well buy into that. You know, they might buy into that announcement. Or what could happen is the market might pop up and during the announcement pop back again. And if it settles, they might just about pop forward. So that's coming out. Then the economic sentiment from Germany is predicted to be pretty negative. We do have some CPIs as well from Europe. This is kind of a big one, though. Bank of England, Mark Carney speaking, because if the FTSE 100 is lofty at that particular point, then I'm still looking for Mark Carney to say something positive about the pound. I'm still looking for him to give some sort of hawkish reaction in regards to the pound. And if he does, then that's going to drive the FTSE down. Now, if I'm wrong on that, which I may well be, everybody pointed out yesterday that the numbers from the UK aren't particularly positive. Relatively speaking, they're not too bad, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not too positive. So what does he come out and say? What will he come out and do? Because we don't know that, we're going to need to listen to that announcement. And again, try and figure out what's likely to happen into that. Now, if the data is bad, then there is a greater likelihood that people might buy into that particular statement anyway, because they'll be expecting the pound to be weak. So when the pound is weak, the FTSE tends to be stronger, and vice versa. So that's gonna play a part in today's trading as well. So quite a few things out there which suggest that there will be opportunities. Now, those opportunities are obviously always twofold. You're either going to make money or you're going to lose money. So the question is, what do we need to see to get us into a trade? Now, the shorts, in my opinion, at this stage aren't very attractive. I'm not really kind of too into the shorts, and it's not because of the fundamentals. I think the fundamentals in the grand scheme of things still point to the downside, but it's just that the technicals don't at this stage point to the downside. So one of two things is going to happen here. Either I'm going to take the long kind of early because things shape up. I may well miss it because it's going to be tough, I think, to take the long just because we're at the top end of the wedge. So either I'm going to take the long kind of early, or I'm going to wait and see if I can get what I really want, which is a downside setup. You know, I'd much prefer this market to fall from here than go, because if it goes, we are not only at the top end of a wedge, but we're also at the top end of a trend line on the weekly, and that doesn't really fill me with too much hope of getting a really good run before FOMC. But I might need to put some protection in place. So that is the deal, mate. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, a bit tricky there at the moment from my point of view as well. I'm seeing potential false break of that line there. Or
okay, let me just let me give you the screen. Have you got? Haven't got your charts yet.
Yeah, hang on a second. I'll go there. Okay, with any luck, you'll be able to see my screen imminently.
I'm there with you.
We've spoken many times about the false break, and it's kind of one of my favorite plays when it does set up. This one's tricky, however. It's not giving me. I'm not seeing my screen at all on the YouTube channel for whatever reason. Let me.
Oh, okay, I've got it here.
Let me check that again. There and there. Hopefully that'll do the trick. So there we go. All right, we've got the hourly chart. That's what I'm looking at. And we've got the daily pivot and the weekly pivot very close together. We've tried, in fact, we have set a new high compared to these yesterday. And normally what I look for here is price to get above, maybe even set a new high, come back underneath and retest from below. Kind of got that, but it's tricky. If I had that solo and over here without this one happening, I'd be pretty tempted to go short here, but not too far, because you can see the daily pivot's going to be an issue if you're trading straight into it. So I don't know that it's a viable trade to take in any case, but it's kind of a dromedary with a double hump camel there. And the fact that we've come back below both the weekly pivot and the trade line is of interest to me. But I'm not getting the candle I need anyway. So it's a fouled setup, if you like.
Yeah, you're looking for short though.
It's kind of there. I would be if this didn't exist. See, my rule with playing this is you can only have 2 breaks of a trend line. I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's too many. It becomes unreliable for that reason, because the more it's got, the more it's likely to have. So I'm really not interested in taking that position. But it's kind of there. The setup's nearly there. But again, I wouldn't be trading it because you've got the daily pivot backing up as support. So would I be thinking long, not off that trend line, but certainly off the bigger picture one? I think that's that's a reasonable.
It's kind of sloppy, isn't it? I mean, it's
not 100%. That's a fact. I don't mind that bar there. Hang on, let me get rid of that. I don't mind that bar there. I think that's a bull bar for me. It wouldn't be for many people, but for me, that's a bull bar. Meaning that, and I'm not predicting that price is going to rally, but if it does and gets back above that trend line, I think you'll find that there'll be an acceleration point there because there is liquidity in this area. There should be some here as well. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst, but I'm like you. It's not a great place to be looking long.
No, it's not, is it? I mean, it's one of those that I'm tempted to get in long now, because at least if it breaks down, I might have a test of this level, and I can probably get out.
Mm. Yeah, not really for me.
Yeah, it's difficult to get confidence,
I'll
isn't
leave
it? I
that
mean,
one for you,
this is
mate.
the thing, yeah, because the thing is, there's two ways to always enter. Try and enter on a break of some price action, which would generate the long, and give that a little bit more confidence. But it's running into so many problems up here. There's so many areas up here where it could just turn around that it's hard to know what's best to do. But I am tempted, I have to say.
You work it out, mate.
I'll work it out.
Do you want some breathing space?
No. I should probably wait to the open. I mean, it's I don't think I need breathing space. It's just whether this is one of those, it's the way I'm looking at this chart, it's saying go long.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is everything else that's out there is saying to me, be careful. So because of that, I mean, sometimes being careful means you get in, because as I say, I'd look for the retest if I'm wrong, rather than seeing if I can get a break of a line, because a break of a line could just could create some liquidity, and then everything just shoves straight back to the downside again. So I am going to give it a little while, but what I don't want to do is procrastinate too long on this stuff. I'm even down to a minute chart here, just to see if I can get some information on that. But no, you go, mate. You go ahead. You do your thing,
Right, mate.
and I will come back to this.
Okay, well, the biggest thing on the radar today thus far has been the Aussie. Not so much the major announcement, which was from my memory. I can't remember what the numbers were, what they were about, but I do remember that the housing price that's right, it was the minutes of the recent RBA meeting. But the big number, although it's not flagged as a major news event, it was the housing price index, quarter on quarter. Now, nobody's surprised that the housing prices continue to tumble in Australia, because that has been the go for quite some time. In fact, to show you for how long, you only need to have a look at the Forex Factory and take a look at this chart, which is here. And since, when was that? Since March 2017, this has just been a really bad indicator. And you can see it's just tumble. And I think this is actually the worst housing price index number since that became an actual measurement.
Wow.
Yeah. So certainly in the 21st century, that's the case. But I think it's all time. I just don't think it's been worse than that at any stage. And you can see it's incrementally just creeping down and down and down. So house prices in Australia are really on the tumble. Yes, that will correct itself at some stage, but goodness knows when. And of course, that's not good news for the economy, and therefore it's not good news for the Aussie dollar. It's probably suggesting also, not that, as I say, it's not a red flag for the RBA, but they'll certainly be having a look at that, and they'll be thinking, how do we stimulate that? Well, the only way they can stimulate that is to further cut interest rate prices.
I mean, this is the thing, mate, because with that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see what you mean, actually.
Not that
So,
I think it'll make a difference at the moment.
what does that do to
be
the?
fair.
What does that do to the indice? I see that's gone up again on the dailies.
What's that?
The Aussie 200.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah,
So,
it
so
doesn't appear to have any harm on the stock market, but
no,
you're right.
and is that because of the expectation of hikes? Sorry, of
Well, cut.
interest rate cuts. Yeah.
Yeah, look, with this kind of went hand in hand, I suppose, today. And I haven't read the monetary policy meeting minutes. I rarely do because they're such a long document. I haven't got that much time, frankly, to sit and I'd rather let someone else do that and read the summaries. And the summary suggested, not surprisingly, of course, that the RBA is very much in a downward thinking mood, and wouldn't be surprised if another cut comes in the not too distant future, certainly before the end of the year, one would suspect. And if things like that keep mounting up, that will be the case. But as far as the ASX is concerned, yeah, I guess that's probably the case, mate. But I'm only a guesser. I'm not a student of the ASX, so you'd probably have a far better idea than me on that score.
Well, I suspect it's probably similar to what's happening right now in the States and everywhere else, really. That interest rate cuts are there to support an economy, and that may well be something that the National Bank of Australia, take on, the RBA take on in the same way that they're talking about in the States.
Yeah,
Because
well,
as I
look,
say,
to be fair, the RBA has been talking about interest rate cuts for more than 2 years.
right,
They've been talking about it forever. As the
yeah,
Fed just kept going and going and going, the RBA
yeah,
said, no, 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 this is not right for us. And they didn't follow suit, which is rare, to be fair.
yeah, yeah,
Um, they took no notice, if you like, of what the Fed were doing. And it appears now that the Fed's so far ahead of everyone else in terms of interest rates, and hence the US dollar is still buoyant. As soon as they start to cut seriously, this one, if they do cut this time, which again I'm not sure they will, if they were to do that, then I don't think it's going to make that much difference. I think that's pretty much been priced in, although it's now come off again. Because now we're saying they're not going to cut interest rates, whereas last week we were saying they are going to cut interest rates.
yeah.
Let me see if that's changed again going forward. No, so they're still predicting that there will be no rate cut. So I don't expect too much change this week, unless, let's say they were to cut 50 basis points, then there'd be a change. Or if they said, well, no, we don't see any reason to cut interest rates now, or indeed in any time soon, then you would see that the dollar just skyrocket, I believe. But that's not likely to happen, to be fair. I don't see any other reason for mine that the dollar is continuing to hold its status, if you like, amongst the other currencies. That interest rate disparity between all major economies and the US dollar is very apparent, and
Mm,
as we know, interest rates drive currencies, and that's a very, very simplified version of why the US dollar is maintaining its strength.
yeah,
Against
absolutely.
all, it would seem, but the yen. The yen continues to overpower it for some reason.
Yeah, well, the yen, I suppose, in an environment like this, will still be the currency of choice to turn to, just to make sure that
Mm.
there's a little bit of safety out there.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess.
Gold again, pointing upside as well. So seems that there's I'll tell you what, mate. Because of what's going on with these barometers, I think the long is looking very attractive here. Um, because if gold is pointing to the upside as well, then there looks like there may well be some expectation that we're going to get some interest rate cut. Whether that happens or not is not relevant at this stage, because we've still got a whole day to go, and it appears that that there are forces, out there that are suggesting that regardless of whether there's a cut or not, they're going to buy into it, buy into the releases. I mean, not sell into the release. There seems to be enough confidence out there to hold on. I mean, maybe the downturn comes tomorrow, but it doesn't look at this stage that it's going to come today. And if there's some expectation that Draghi is going to come out and say something similar, then again, there could be some buying into that particular statement as well.
He spoke yesterday as well, didn't he? That was that opening address. I don't know that anything too much happened. Certainly not on the euro. Well, maybe that was when the euro did rally. There was a bit of a rally point there in the euro yesterday at some stage. Maybe that was.
Yeah, there was. Yes, there was. Yeah, there was, which is interesting, isn't it? Because if Draghi's talking about cuts, then that's not going to be too positive euro.
No, to be fair, I suppose it was only about 35 pips. It was less than 40 pips and came straight back off. Yeah, I'm hoping actually that the euro does stay exactly where it is for the next 36 hours or so, because that'll allow me to place my my FOMC breakout trade.
Yes,
So
very
tomorrow.
very exciting. Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that little trick.
But I suppose that was the news of the day, and the Aussie, of course, we're still short the Aussie, and no complaints on my behalf because that just continues to tank. Now for the 5th day in succession, if that is to be the case, and we stay that way.
Brilliant.
I just can't see a reason why this will turn around right now or any time. And I think I've been saying that for probably 2 or 3 weeks. It just gets worse and worse for the Aussie. You can see now, if I just go a little bit wider on that screen, you can see now that we appear to be in pretty clear water. We've surpassed, well, probably we haven't. We're still at that level, I guess. So we've still got to get through that. But once through there, wow, what next? Really, at the end of the day. That trend line, of course, will be a support level, as will I guess the bottom of that flash crash. That flash crash again, if I'm not mistaken, that was that fake news. Or where is it actually? Going back to 30th of the 12th.
Market's opening up in 30 seconds, mate.
Do you need to look at it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I am looking at it. I'm likely to take a long. Let's just have a very very quick look. This is the idea here for me. Looking at this on a 5-minute chart here. If we break through this high, then I'm going to take the long on. Not worried about the RSI, so I'm going to take the long on there. Let's just see how the open happens. I hope I don't have to. Oh, that's better. That's better. If it takes out the high, I'm going long. Let's see what happens here. All right, I've taken a long on there. Okay, I've gone long FTSE 100. So just so you guys can see, this in the markets. It's just there. So there's my long in the market. Now I need to be, kind of careful here because we've got to break through the highs. Oh no, I've just done that wrong actually. Just done that slightly wrong. I need one more long in the play here. There we go. Okay, let's see if we can get some upside out of this.
Just pass it back if you need space, mate.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's
Cool.
okay. Now, I don't. Now the long isn't a problem if it breaks down, because my idea is that. Oh, hold on. Have I done enough here? No, I haven't done enough here.
What is
I'm
that,
just
an
going to
ad
take
coming
on.
on here?
Just going to take on one more here. I've got to get another long in the market here. I've just done only half of what I need to do. So just while the price action's down here, there's no reason for me to take on that second position just yet. But I just want to see if it can break through again. And I'll take on my second part here. Let's take that second one on there. Okay, so we'll see what happens on the long, and if it breaks down at this point, then say not the best place to go long by any stretch. But if it breaks down at this point, then either I'll just take the trade off at a small loss, or I'll wait. What I'm really waiting for here is either we go up, which is obviously my desire, or we come down, maybe bounce off there. Now, if it comes down and it continues to fall, that's just something I'm going to have to manage later. But if it comes down and then pops up, then I'll take the long off somewhere in this area. So there'll be maybe 7-8 pips or whatever lost at this point. But I'm kind of happy to take that risk, because we are through the trend line, and my problem is that there's quite a lot of confidence. It seems, as plastic as that confidence is, there seems to be sort of like quite a lot of confidence out there in the market, and it concerns me that we've got Draghi just around the corner, and possibly people may well buy into that. And if they buy into that, then I could be in all sorts of trouble. But I'm not gonna look to make money out of this long. This is literally just a protective long that I've got in place. So I'll either take it down here because it is protection. Not too worried about losing a few pips on it. Or if it starts to really break to the upside, then I'll probably move stops to break even and leave things as they were.
Makes sense to me, absolutely. All right, I'll give you a bit of a breather, shall I? And continue a little bit of thought as to where I might be headed today.
Yeah, sounds good.
And to be absolutely fair, that's probably not going to be a terribly long journey for me today. I don't think there's too much that it really is taking my interest. Certainly the pound, look, I haven't given up on that position, to be absolutely fair. Until this low is taken out, this is still a higher low on this double bottom. So I'll continue to watch this. We've now been taken out of that, by the way. I'll continue to watch this. And if we manage to even consolidate under here for a couple of days, weeks, or whatever, then get back above it, I'll be looking for a retest and a long still. Would I be prepared just to go long now? No, not on your life. There's just absolutely nothing to suggest, pardon me, right now the pound is going to rally. But if what I've just described happens to be, then certainly I will be looking for that at some stage, but not looking to trade the pound at all at the moment. The Aussie, as we've just discussed, is well underway. Our trade is looking pretty good, and I don't think there's anything needed to be done here right now except see how far we can go. I think the trade line or trend line here is probably the place that the Aussie will find itself next in terms of support areas. That could take quite some time to occur. I've just drawn about 3 weeks or a month off the chart. In fact, probably more than that. But that's the only confluence I can find at present in that area. So this may be a long drawn out process. For that reason, I think we probably need to leave our stops where they are, which is at entry. We've banked a couple of times, so no drama there. This would have to do a complete turnaround to get back to there. And I just don't see how that. Well, there is a way that can happen, and that would be if the Fed cut interest rates tomorrow by 50 basis points. Then you will find the Aussie back up here, in a pretty quick hurry. But that's the only thing I can see happening. I don't see anything on the horizon in Australia to suggest that the Aussie can turn around. So, no way. In fact, if I were to get a decent retracement, maybe back to this weekly pivot area, I'd be jumping back into this. I'd be scaling back in. So that's probably the only thing on my mind at the moment, is just to continue the shorts on the Aussie. Now, the euro is a completely different kettle of fish, and what I'm looking for on the euro is pretty much underway. I was looking for either one of two or three things here. I wish I had a pen at my disposal. I'll just put the screen marker on this and see if that works. Weekly pivot's the first area of consideration, and what I'd like to see there is a rejection bar of the weekly pivot. If I did see that, I'd be happy to go short. I would also be happy to go short if I saw it here and here. So there's quite a few options. Does that make me a bull short term? Maybe I could consider trading this long, but certainly not from here. I wouldn't be trading at this level into the weekly pivot untested. No way. If it were to break, however, and then we fail to get back below it, different story. I could trade it up to here and here in extension. But at this point, my best case scenario is to get a rejection here at the weekly pivot, or it shoots straight up to here and get a rejection. Then I can look to trade it back into here. Why here? Well, we've come back into the range, and that always gives me a nice little leg up. You can see that we've broken out of this range only really once, twice. This is the third time, and this one seems to be a fairly big statement to me. It definitely looks like we've had enough of this area for now anyway. And if we were to get that rejection bar at the weekly pivot, now we're back inside here. The lower high definitely gets me interested in trading it back down to here, certainly taking profit at the monthly pivot. So that's where I'm at on the euro at the moment. Wouldn't surprise me to see it here. Wouldn't surprise me to see it here. But I think my bias for now is just wait for that to set up and go short. Aussie, and well, of course, FOMC and the Fed could change that in a heartbeat. And that's what I'm kind of counting on with this trade that I spoke of earlier. If we can manage to stay inside this range, primarily, well, I don't need to put it on the chart, the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot would be ideal scenario. And if the daily pivot stayed exactly where it was or is, which would likely be the case if we go up and down, then I would be very, very happy if come FOMC statement time, price was sitting bang in the middle of that range. I would look to trade it both ways. So we'll see how that pans out. And I will go through that tomorrow in far more depth, providing, of course, that we're still inside that range. That may not be the case. I suspect it will, however. So that's euro dollar. I would have traded it up to here if there had been an opportunity. Maybe there still is. Maybe it comes back and tests the daily pivot. Then there is a bit of a leg up to the weekly pivot and maybe this area here, but it's not there right now. Aussie yen, I was touting this as a possible trade this week, short, of course, but how do you get in? There's only one way, and that's with a big retracement, and certainly that doesn't look to be happening anytime soon. So that's kind of off the watch list for now. Would I be prepared to trade it long? No. That's just not interested. Not interested in trading the Aussie long at all, because I don't think it's got any prospects of rallying beyond a few pips, even to a resistance level, which is quite clear here today. Daily pivot and trend line. If we were to get price back up to there, then certainly I'd be jumping into it for sure. But it'll only be short. Why have I got Kiwi yen on my chart? Well, because the three weakest currencies this month have been the Aussie, the Kiwi, and the pound. And anything against what's the strongest currency, which is the yen this month, I'm interested in, because off a rally, you've got to be looking to sell the rallies. And unfortunately, so this is a weekly chart, so you'll be looking for a while for a rally on that. But this has got potential to rally. There's a bit of a base forming here, perhaps. If we've got to rally back to, let's say, the weekly pivot, there would be reason to think that this could provide a selling opportunity. At the moment, would I be prepared to trade this one long? Look, I think for the same reasons as the Aussie, it's under pressure. The Kiwi is under pressure. If you have a look at this chart, this is the Kiwi daily chart, and look at Friday's bar. You know, that was just telling you everything you need to know right now. How it's staying at that level is probably only because of the form of support that this what is it, 65, not one, but 0.65. It's a whole number. I would expect that will go, and we'll see further downside on the Kiwi. In fact, if I were a gambling man, more than I am, I suppose, I'd even be looking to trade that bar. I think that's quite reasonable, given the weight of pressure against the Kiwi. I am not. I'll hasten to add, because I can't go short here. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's no a very low reward for a high risk to enter at this level. That's why I wouldn't be doing that. But let me look at the smaller time frames. We seem to be undergoing a little bit of a rally, but little is the operative word. So if I could enter maybe here somewhere, let's say, then different story, because I could get profit in the bank before we hit these lows. But as it stands, that's a tall order right now. Maybe there's a little line through here that we could play later. I'm not sure if that will work out, but I need to get away from these lows before I can relatively safely, in my opinion. Maybe there's a line through here. Maybe we could play that.
Hedges out of the market, mate. Hedges coming off, because that
right,
looks okay for some more downside. So okay, no problem.
Done.
Yeah, all done.
Okay, guys. So in the show, that long of ashes is now coming off. So no further concern with that one. Yeah, even a false break here really doesn't interest me that much, but I will keep my eye on it. That is Kiwi US dollar, and again back to where we were. The Kiwi yen, I think, is still a strong sell, but getting into it is another story. As is the case with anything that's already begun its little journey. All of these crosses I'm looking at are doing pretty much exactly the same thing. They're just continuing to crash, and against the yen, those three currencies I mentioned, Aussie, Kiwi, pound, are all tanking, and I don't see any change to that anytime soon. Now, the interesting point I wanted to raise, and Aussie CAD this time last week, no, not this time, about Wednesday, Thursday, I was starting to tout this as the trade of the month if it did set up. And I was looking at this week, either yesterday or today, to try and get into this and get into it long. And given what I've just said on the Aussie, why would I be considering that? Well, because I considered the CAD may even be weaker than the Aussie. But then I went back and had a look at all the recent CAD news, and everything is super positive on the CAD from a fundamental point of view. The only thing holding it back at the moment, in my humble opinion, is the oil price. So if we have a look at oil, and this is subject to rapid change if the Iran situation were to escalate into an oil crisis. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case, and I absolutely don't know where that's up to be fair. I don't know if you got any update on that one, Ash, but if
No, the United States have released some pictures. That's pretty much as far as it's gone right now. They've released some pictures just to prove their point, but nothing else.
right, so still on the back of, and if oil continues to crash, I guess that puts the cat under a little bit of pressure. But if oil was to rally in any way, shape, or form, and it's got a little base here, double bottom, I don't see any reason why that can't happen. But of course, this is all pending what happens in that Iran situation, I believe. If it were to rally in any way, shape, or form, then anything against the CAD, in my humble opinion, needs to be sold very, very quickly, because the CAD is it's got the best numbers I can think of. If you go back the last few weeks, why don't I do that just for fun, just to prove my point? CAD news, latest CAD news. I don't think it's much last week that happened, but the week before, I think there were some really good numbers on the CAD. CAD. No, last week was pretty much zero, but the week before, or was it the week before that? Come on, CAD. There we go. CAD press conference. Trade balance. Trade balance was good. Well in advance of what it had been previously. So that was good news. The employment rate was a ball terror. The unemployment rate came in at 5.4%, down from 5.7%, which was previous and forecast. So that was a good number. Good job creation, and put all those things together. The trade balance was good, as I said. What else happened on the CAD? I think there was one more that was pretty decent news for the CAD. They didn't cut interest rates. I suppose that's something as well. May, last week of May. Let's have a look at that. As I say, they didn't cut interest rates. The rate statement, I don't think, was overly bearish. The current account was good on the CAD. So there's just nothing bad happening in the Canadian. Here's the other one. The GDP figures were good, very good, in fact, compared to previous. Everything was positive. The production numbers were all good. So we're going back in 3 weeks ago now, and nothing has changed here on the CAD that I see. So it to me, if it can catch an oil rally, will absolutely take off, in my humble opinion. So I'll be watching oil very closely for that reason. Maybe it'll happen too quickly, but I think the CAD is a very, very strong conveyance if there is anything happening in the oil situation. So watch that one, guys. Back to my charts if I've got anything else to add. So Aussie CAD, where I was talking about this as being a very, very strong buy, should actually be the reverse of that if this CAD can catch that oil situation, or if the oil situation does improve. So that's my little spin on Aussie CAD. And going further than that, the numbers that Ash does on a pretty much a monthly basis now, I think you're doing those figures, mate, suggested that the Aussie would close above its open.
That's right.
At the rate of 70% in June. That's the historic number. So that's, again, I just cannot see how we're going to witness that. It doesn't make any fundamental sense, and I'm not saying the numbers are wrong in any way, shape, or form. But if we have a look at where the Aussie began the month, we are now. Let me
And it's interesting with this stuff, isn't it? Because that it was a 70% chance, but by the same token, there's still 30% chance that doesn't happen. And
Of course.
it's one of those, isn't it? Today.
Currently, we're 200 pips to the downside, and the only possible way I can see that changing in the next 2 weeks is if the Fed does in fact cut, but not only cut by 25 basis points, but by 50 basis points. I can't see 200 pips being taken off this by a 25 basis point cut. But having said that, I have been stunned by the market many, many times before, and this won't be the first time. If this does go 250 pips and closes above its open, well, actually, to close above its open here, that's not quite true, the number I just gave you. To close above its open, it doesn't have to rally 200 pips. It has to rally only 100 pips. So that's a little bit more manageable, I suppose. But how it happens, again, outside the Fed, I've got no idea. It doesn't lend itself right now to being a bullish conveyance. I'll put it that way. And in fact, how can it not go to here is my question. How can it not go to this trend line?
Yeah.
Is the question I've got in my head right now. Because it's clear of this double bottom. Well, when I say clear, sorry, that's not quite true. It's certainly taking that on, but it doesn't look bullish at all, does it? I'd have to say. Or, although that said, the market structure, if you look at this double bottom and then you have a look at that bar right there, that's telling me a whole different story. That's telling me that there was massive liquidity sitting here. And the market rallied on the back of that. Interesting. I hadn't looked at that before. That's a big candle right there.
Mm.
So if that doesn't get taken out, that's a different perspective entirely. Okay. Maybe there is a way from a technical point of view. Okay. Isn't it funny? You just go a little bit wider and the picture changes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That is the case all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, you bet.
Makes it really, really important to make sure that that you do look wide.
That's almost got me interested, Ash. With 2 weeks to go. All right.
Oh, okay.
Let's keep our eye on that one. Where I continue to say, from a fundamental point of view, there's absolutely no way this can rally apart from the Fed. But maybe I need to consider banking some more profit here at some stage. I'll keep my eye on the situation, guys. That takes me to Aussie Kiwi, and it's looking like I got out of this prematurely. Anyway, as it continues, well, it bounced off this trend line. After taking my trailing stop out, and I'm kind of wishing I was still in this now. Would I get back in? Look, I would, but I can't just get in right now. I'd need to see something like a false break of this trend line before I did that. And after all, we've still got an untested monthly pivot above. The Kiwi's in all sorts of strife as well. I've just seen the Aussie chart now. It's now technically possible for this to actually rally. I'm just going to sit on the sidelines there now and wait for that one. This one's still of interest to me. Pound Aussie. What do I need to see? I still need to see a bit more retracement. I've got the bottom of my range here, of course. There was a higher low. We've already had that. So I need to see a significant higher low here now. This won't cut it for me. I need to see price get probably back below the weekly pivot, although I strongly see that that's a good bounce point, no question. I think I'd like to see this come back lower. I'm not sure where the level is, to be fair. It doesn't look obvious to me where that level is. Maybe the weekly pivot is it, but this is not the candle I want to trade. I want to see something a bit better. Well, when I say better, a lot of people would like to see that candle and they say, well, that's a bull sign. which it certainly is. That's just not my bullseye. So I need to see something a little bit more than that. It's not there yet. Mate, I haven't got much more. I'll have a look at Euro Pound and Euro CAD. Euro Pound continues just to outshine pretty much anything else at the moment. I can't see a way into this. I still want to trade it short, but gee, I'm waiting for a long time, aren't I? And I still, wow, what an exit that was that I took down here. Wow. It's just got to turn over. It has to put in a big double top or head and shoulders or something like that. It's a long way from being tradable for me. Euro yen's not a long way from being tradable. However, it continues to have a look at this longer term 4-hour trend line. I don't know what I need to see off that apart from a break, take this low out and retest it. Then I could probably trade it short. I'd need to be taking profit before that low there. Best case scenario is not to trade short off that one, but to find one up here somewhere and trade it short from that area. I think that's a better conveyance for me. So smaller time frames, maybe if we got a rally up to here, I could look to play a false break off the weekly pivot. That might be okay. And really, that's it, mate. I'm struggling to find entries at the moment as the ones that have powered on continue to power on, and those that are still waiting for setups haven't yet done that. But that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Well, FTSE is very interesting. I'm still interested in this hedge. I mean, it's come a little bit lower. Right to take it off because the price action just started to collapse, and that's, you know, I don't want to see a collapse in price action. Let me just quickly show you what I've got here. So we look at these on shorter term time frames, and the price action really did collapse. It's struggling to get back above this daily pivot, but if it does do that, then there's every chance that the hedge might well come back on. And I took it off here, so actually I could pretty much get the same price as I came out on, and I'm okay with that. If it moves to the downside, it's better for me. I really want this to tank. You know, I don't really want to be caught in an upside trade, but I will take it if we just, you know, just take out this daily pivot, because when we look at this on the really short-term time frames, i.e. the 1 minute chart, it's just bashing its head and bashing its head. So I think if it takes this level out, then there may well be some people getting out of the way. So I'm probably going to trade this, I think, long at this particular point if we can just break through here. When you look at this on a 15, then this is the interesting bar, and it might well be a signal of some hold here, not necessarily reversal, but some hold here. So I'm just looking to see whether I want to take this trade or not. Draghi is at the back of my mind, and that is the reason that I'm interested. Obviously, there was some flush down at the start of the day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to continue. Just get rid of that. Make sure that that's on the right number this time. Okay, I think I might take this on if that 15 closes just above that point in the next 10 seconds or so, then I may well take this on. In fact, I will take it on. Right, it is there. So I'm going to take this back on again. And see if we can get a little bit more upside out of this. As that comes back. I mean, it might just be... and remember, this is about protection for me. It's got nothing more to do with that. So that the hedge can come on and off and on and off. It's not a big deal because I've got a much wider picture. So let's just make sure this is going to hold here. And if it doesn't, then I'll take it straight back off again. And it might be that that it's going to be better to wait for Draghi. If this comes off again, then I will wait for Draghi. But if it manages to get back above that level, then I'm happy to roll with it.
Okay, just for guys in the room, to make it perfectly clear, Ash has got short positions right on this cross, so he's actually hedging those positions.
That's right.
He's not a bull by any stretch.
It might need to come off. Let's just see what's going on here. I'm just looking at this 1 minute chart here. I'm just making sure this level holds. If this level gives way, then I want to take the hedge off, basically. But if the level can hold up here, then we may well get some upper price action. There's no point in coming out just yet. Let me just mark off a line here. Yeah, it's still holding up. I suppose it's that line there that it would need to take. Yeah, frozen in time. The issue is really finding the sentiment, isn't it, of the day? I mean, it's sort of like, it obviously started very negatively, but there are enough people interested here. I suppose at the back of my head as well, I'm wondering whether you know, if Draghi's going to come out and say something positive, then he's probably going to talk about easing conditions and this, that, and the other. Now, whether he does that or not isn't the relevant fact. It's more down to what the speculation on that is going to be. Right, I quite like it. I quite like the way it's rolling at the minute. What I really want to do is get this hedge on and get these stops to break even.
Yes, that'd be nice.
Just as they act, you know, as they should, as a hedge and not necessarily just as a trade. Okay. It's going to be the tip of that line, isn't it? I've got to get one more hedge on, you see here, if I can. It's pretty good. All right, I'm taking that second hedge on in my other account as well now. Right, hopefully we can manage this one a bit better. If this one can go a little bit. And it might have been, you see, the first one might have just been looking for some liquidity down there. Now I'm going to need... What's that, mate?
So a good place to find it as well. Underneath.
Yes, absolutely. Just under that daily pivot. And yeah, whether we can get an explosive move is the question. I think what I'm going to have to do is, if we can get up here, I'm going to have to probably protect the trade with a stop. Which is not ideal. Stop at break even, that is. And this is the thing, sometimes you just have to look for it, you know.
You're working hard, buddy.
Yeah, I really am. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't make it simple, but then that is trading, isn't it? It's not here to make things easy for us.
I'm looking for something myself, but I just can't find it.
Yeah, well, I think with the euro, it's probably going to have similar kind of issues to the FTSE, isn't it? Where it is going to be dependent on that Draghi speech, and literally all I'm doing here is trying to find what the speculation is. That, you know, that this is still kind of based on a fundamental aspect. and it might be that I have to take a few punches to the head while trying to kind of fish into the market here. But that's okay, because as I say, as you say, that my longer term position is the short. But by the same token, my shorts are quite a way down, so I've got to make sure that I'm protected. And protection is just going to come from maybe losing a few small battles on the way, but potentially then winning the war. But the small battle I really want to lose here is at break even rather than anything too significant. So we'll see if people are going to be buying in now.
My issue on the euro today in particular is the long or the biggest candle I've got currently is 7 pips.
Oh, right.
It doesn't fill me with enthusiasm to trade, I can assure you.
No, but then that'll change, won't it? When we get close to Draghi, or when he kind of kicks off his meeting, that's going to change, isn't it?
Yeah, it will. But that said, it may change for 1 bar,
Yeah,
and then turn back on itself.
yeah.
That's the issue. And trying to predict whether that bar will be will have follow through is a very, very difficult thing. And even getting it in the right direction, it's a bit of a balance. Well, it's a toss of a coin really at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you say, this is the job, isn't it, mate? This is the job. When you kind of when you're in the market, sometimes you just kind of get a trade on, you can just leave it. But every now and again, you just have to do some management.
Isn't it true? I tend to micromanage, certainly the 30-minute trades as a preemptive thing, and that's I take profit very early, and if that doesn't happen, then I'll get out of the trade. And, it's not that hard to work unless it just fiddles around. And if we're playing with 2 and 3 pip candles, that's the agony of it. It's just you can sit there for hours on end.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what's going to happen next, and do I need to manage this? What do I do? And invariably, if I'm there for 2 hours and I'm not at a profit level, then I'm out of there. I don't want to know about it.
Now, what I'm going to do with this is, again, looking at the minute chart. What I'll probably do with my hedge is just put a stop now. I don't want that. What I want is that. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll put my stop just underneath. Probably still this point here. We're fairly close, so we haven't got too bad. We're not in too bad shape here. So I'll probably, I'll maybe shift a stop now under this point at 49. The breakdown of the trend line will maybe have significance, but have to remember this is only a 1-minute chart. So far we've got this little upside, higher low, higher high. Now this needs to create another higher low here for us to keep going. If that's not the case, then taking it out down here is going to be the issue. So let's put a stop at 48 on that. And we will see how we get on. So I'm going to modify that, put my stop down at 48. And that will give me just a bit of protection there. Just make sure those lines are in. Yeah, that's the right place. Okay. All right, so that's that. In a way, that's managed anyway, so I'm okay with that. Do the same with my other account as well. So what we got here? Stop at, what's it going to be on this one? 57, so that'll be at 49. Stops down there at 49. Okay. So if that runs down too much, then we can get out of that trade and not be too worried about it. Good thing about this is that, you know, if it does break down here a little bit, then we don't need to be too twitchy because the daily pivot is in the way, and it'll cost a little bit, but it's not a problem. Much better to protect the trade. I'm just having a quick look at something else here.
Just give us a whistle, mate, if you want to have a blow from talking.
No, you know, all I'm doing right now is just thinking aloud. So I'm just making sure that we've got enough in the bank. Yeah, we do. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so it's just under that that daily pivot. But if the daily pivot doesn't hold it up, there's every likelihood that the hedge should come off, because that trend line, even though it's only on a 1 minute chart, is being seen. And maybe I'll take it off a little bit earlier. If it closes down there, and then we'll just have to wait for Draghi, I think, after that. Let's just check a 15-minute chart as well. Yeah, looks like there might be just just enough indecision out there.
He is now, what, 17 minutes away?
Yeah, and this doesn't bode that well. So I'm going to probably take this hedge off, actually, because that 1 minute chart does look a little bit weak there. It's got to get through that daily pivot again. Let's give it a little while. Leave it for a minute. No, I am watching the 15, but I'm also watching this. The only issue with this as well is that if people don't buy into this, then Draghi might well come out and sorry, not Draghi might come out. If people don't buy into this now, you know, if the indecision's there, then this hedge could just be frozen in time, and that is going to be no good. You know, if the hedge just kind of gets frozen out, then it's going to be no good. Because then I'm going to get caught into price action that I just do not want to have to deal with.
Yeah, it could be hairy price action too, because he could very well say one thing and then turn around and say completely the opposite.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of got to go now. It's going to be now. We can switch to our 15-minute candles now, because we are close. Let's get rid of that. Where I want it is up here. If I can have it up there, then I can put my stops in. And not have to be too concerned. Now that isn't the best bar. That is not the best bar.
Yeah, that's a neither here nor there bar, isn't it?
It's not great, mate. Yeah, I mean, it just sort of, and that's not going to fill the market with any kind of joy whatsoever. And let's just quickly check this on the hourly and see what the hourly is suggesting. Now, with the hourly, what we've got is just an RSI, which is just underneath right now, which is no good. So my decision really comes down now. Do I take this hedge off the table? Because it's if it's not providing protection because we are just kind of frozen here, or leave it on. And I'm going to have to take it off if price action remains like this and doesn't give me a decent push into that speech. I'm going to have to take it off, because Draghi coming out is just going to be too. It's going to be too manic.
Yeah, potential fireworks, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody sort of is unaware of these speeches, it's these speeches that really shift the market around. And the problem with it is that your stops can get taken out, but you can still be right on direction. So this is why I'm really keen to get a stop in a protective area, i.e. break even, rather than have price action pretty much exactly where I enter, and then get kind of like roller coasters around from one area to another. So the only other option here is to, if price action doesn't pick up, the only other option is to wait for Draghi and then hedge after.
My fear is that it is a big whipsaw event, and we just get terrible price.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, you see. I mean, whipsaw in itself isn't a problem. It's whipsaw if I haven't got my stops protected, my trade protected. But this is why I want price up here, because it gives me just a little bit of room with that stop, rather than kind of like being too kind of churned about here. So regardless of anything, I'm going to have to protect at 9 o'clock. So in the next 12 minutes, I'm going to have to protect this trade regardless. So I haven't really got any choice but to protect the trade.
Maybe we should leave you. Oh, sounds like Allison's home.
That doesn't bode well, does it, that bar?
Do you want us to leave you with it, mate?
Yeah, leave me with it for now. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm going to have to take this off. Okay, hedge is coming off. It's just that the price action is just too messy here.
Okay, well, we'll give you
just going to have to wait for Draghi.
Give you the next 10 minutes to take a breather and sort yourself out there, mate. I think we've done enough for the day. I don't have any trades pending. I don't see any potential orders until Draghi has done his thing, and maybe later on I can look to trade the euro, as I said before. Maybe up then down, dependent on what Draghi delivers and where price is when he's actually finished. So that's about me, mate. I don't see any other potential trades at the moment. Maybe tomorrow, as I said, and I'll set that euro. Actually, if it's not the euro, it could well be something else as a FOMC breakout trade. Depends a whole lot on what he says in the next hour or so.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Sounds good. Well, the man is due. Yeah, in about 10 minutes. And what I'd quite like, just to kind of wrap it up. Now I'm not in a trade, I can relax a bit. What I'd quite like is for price to come down. That would be my preference, because really I'd quite like to add to the short, if anything. I don't really want to be going long here. The long is purely for protection, and it's the right thing to do. Putting the short in the market. There's no point in messing about with this stuff if our job really is to protect our account, not anything else. But this, this price action in itself, even if they buy into the into the speech here, I would suggest that there's no way that I had a chance to put my stops at break even. And as I say, everybody out there needs to be aware that the next half an hour is likely to be fairly tumultuous. It does just mess about. Draghi is almost somebody that I wouldn't be surprised if people put algorithmic trading with words into whether they buy
Yeah.
or sell or not.
Yeah.
Because it does end up so jerky, doesn't it? I mean, it's amazing how fast people can make a choice on some of the small things he says. So it does suggest that there's just some programmers out there going, if he says this, because he's got stock phrases. If he says this, sell. If he says this, buy. And it just triggers in just some really manic price action. So the best thing to do now is just wait for that speech to pass and see if we can get some direction. Now, hopefully, he will not say anything too positive because the overall picture is still for downside. So as long as Draghi doesn't mess that up by talking about stimulus, which I don't know how he can. I'm not sure how many bullets Draghi's really got. But as long as he doesn't mess it up by talking about stimulus, then there's no reason at all that we shouldn't continue to go lower here. So so let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what he says. See if the price action settles down. There's going to be some fast and furious movements in price probably for the next 40 minutes as we move into the speech, and then the speech happens, and then look to probably trade around about 9:30. I would suggest.
Yep, I'm with you. I'll look for those little signals, and if they coincide with my technical analysis, and in particular trading back to the bottom of that range, I'd be a happy chappy. But
great stuff.
It may
All
not
right,
be
buddy.
the case. Righto, let's do it all again tomorrow, shall we?
Great stuff, mate. Yeah, same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Sorry, it's been a bit messy, but we have to protect our accounts. And
I'm sure they've enjoyed watching you manage your trade, mate.
Awesome. All right,
Your
nice
hard
one.
work.
Yeah. Definitely today. Today is so far anyway. We're only not even an hour into the day of trading, and it's already hard. So hopefully that's not the shape of things to come. I'm sure we'll get the right direction in the end. So it's no big deal.
Right, bud. We'll catch you tomorrow.
A nice one. All right, buddy. See you later. See you later, guys.
Bye, guys.